This is Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you, by transcription, the mystery of the guest in number 2. Being a combination of doctor and detective gets pretty rugged sometimes, and this was one of those times, all right. The guest in number 2, we called him. Jill, that's my landlady's daughter, first called him to my attention.
Mom just rented number 2. You know, the room up on the second floor. To the doggonedest guy.
I remember you thought I was the doggonedest guy when I moved in here and set up a laboratory for crime detection and medical work.
Well, but Sandy thinks so too, don't you, Sandy?
Yeah, I think maybe he's a criminal in hiding.
I'm afraid you kids have developed unnatural suspicions from helping me out with some of my cases.
Well, anybody that says his name is Jones, then...
Oh, now, look. Some people really are named Jones. Several 100,000 of them, I presume, and...
Yeah, but if that's his name, then why are all his suitcases marked with R-W-M?
Sure, every one of them, stamped in gold letters.
None of our business, kids. Boy, your mother'd skin you alive, Jill, if she knew you were prying into the luggage of a paying customer. And as for you, Master Sandy, it might be smart for you to confine your detective work to your own premises and not in other people's houses, right?
Right.
Oh, okay, I guess. But I still think it is darn funny.
I wish now I'd paid more attention to Sandy and Jill in the matter of the stranger in number 2. But you never know until it's too late. Anyway, nothing happened to break the routine of my laboratory week for a couple of weeks. Then, late one afternoon, just before dinner time, I was cleaning up my lab.
Gee, Dr. Tim, you don't mean those jars are full of real blood? Blood from people?
Exactly that, Jill.
What do you do with it?
Oh, a lot of things. Blood's a pretty useful thing. A lot more so than most people realize.
Where do you get it?
From the bank, Jill. The blood bank. And that's just what it actually is. All over the country, these banks keep blood for use whenever and wherever it's needed.
Sure, but what do you do with it?
Well, that's a long story, Sandy. But it amounts to this. For years, doctors have known that blood isn't just one thing. It's lots and lots of things. And each one of those parts or fractions of the blood can be separated from the other parts. And these are used to cure people. I'm trying to find some new blood parts, or some new uses for the old ones. That's why there's always blood samples in the laboratory refrigerator, catch?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Well, I'm all cleaned up here at last. Now, what's the news?
Mom said I'd better come up and see you.
Hmm?
A professional visit, she called it. I don't feel so good today.
Symptoms?
Well, I've been sort of sick at my stomach, and my eyes hurt, and I feel all kind of worn out.
Personally, I think she's just trying to get out of doing homework tonight.
I am not.
Well, let me take a look, Jill. Stick out your tongue. Uh-huh. Say ah. Sandy,
Yes, Dr. Tim.
hand me that thermometer, will you?
Sure.
Thanks. Here, now keep it in your mouth for a while, Jill.
Now, Dr. Tim,
Yes?
you know that guy Jones upstairs?
Oh, I wouldn't say I know him, Sandy. We've spoken in the hall.
Well, I know you told us to lay off, but the doggonest thing happened just a few minutes ago while I was waiting by the stairs for Jill.
Ah, the curse of an overactive imagination. Go on.
Anyway, he came in with this other man right behind him. And Dr. Tim, I'd swear that other guy had a gun in his overcoat pocket, was pushing it right up against this Jones guy's back. They didn't see me because...
I didn't have time to laugh because just at that moment, from right overhead came the sound of a fight, and then something else, a shot. For a moment, we stood there paralyzed. It wasn't until I heard a crash of glass and saw a figure hurtle past my window and streak it over the back fence and up the alley that I could move. And by the time that we reached the upstairs room, it looked as if we'd arrived too late. The mysterious Mr. Jones was lying on the floor with a pool of blood beside him. He'd been shot right through the back. Looking back on it afterwards, I don't know what I'd have done without those kids. There wasn't anybody else in the house, and if I ever needed 6 hands, I needed them then. Sick as she was, Jill just gulped and said,
Holy gee. Is he dead?
He wasn't quite, but it was a matter of moments. Gunshot wounds can be pretty nasty, and where there's loss of blood, you always have shock to contend with, and shock can be mighty serious in itself. Sandy didn't have to be told. In a flash, he was downstairs and back with my medical bag. One word to Jill, the word police, sent her flying to a telephone, and I knew an ambulance and help would be on the way at once. Meantime, the mysterious Mr. Jones was in the hands of God and a doctor. I hoped I was a good doctor, and I remember asking God to help me out on that score. Jones was dying, fast. Then I remembered that blood in my laboratory. Downstairs in the lab, Jill and I worked as we'd never worked before, while Sandy kept watch upstairs over the wounded man. We didn't talk much, Jill and I, just a few quiet questions and answers.
Here's the microscope slide, Dr. Tim. Are you going to give him a transfusion?
Yes. Have to check his type of blood first with a microscope. Use the wrong kind of blood and it would kill him.
Gee.
Good thing I have whole blood on hand for those experiments. He wouldn't last until they could get some here. Now, that solution, please.
Here.
Ah, this one seems to match his blood. Quick, hand me that bottle marked type O. Now, go to the sterilizer. 20 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. 2 squad cars and a dozen or so police were scouring the neighborhood for some trace of the man who had tried to murder the mysterious Mr. Jones. And as for Jones, that blood had saved his life, had replaced the vital fluid, the blood cells, and all the other chemical elements so necessary to keeping the life of a man going. Jones was still unconscious, of course, and would be for a long time yet. His condition was so serious that he couldn't even be moved to a hospital. It would have meant sure death from more loss of blood and shock. The case was out of my hands now, but I'd done my best, and I hoped my best was good enough. I sank down weakly in a chair in my laboratory. And it wasn't until I noticed Sandy and Jill, big-eyed and bursting with excitement, that I remembered the other side of the affair. Who had shot Jones and why? Maybe I could help there, too. But one look at Jill, and I knew her heart was going to be broken. For this was one case where she was going to be out of the running. I spoke quietly. Jill.
Yes, Dr. Tim?
You're going to bed.
Oh, Dr. Tim!
Hate to do it to you, old girl, but you remember that little examination we were making?
Oh, well, yes, but...
As your doctor, madam, I order you to bed. You have measles. A few minutes later, the house had 2 bed patients. One, a very sad young lady with measles. The other, a man nobody knew, who had almost been murdered. A third patient, Sandy, was standing up bravely under a light, while I stood over him with a hypodermic syringe.
What's the stuff, Doc?
Well, believe it or not, Sandy, it comes from blood, too. It's going to keep you from catching Jill's measles, or at least it'll make certain that you have a very light case and protect you for a long time afterwards.
What do you call it?
Immune serum globulin.
Well, let's skip that one, huh?
Well, you see, this stuff is one of those blood parts, fractions I was telling you about. When you take blood from people who have had measles and separate it into its parts, this globulin...
Hey, how do you spell that one?
Well, Globulin. It works wonders to keep people from getting measles from other people.
I'll take your word for it, Doc. Go ahead and shoot.
Okay.
I didn't even feel it. Am I safe now?
Perfectly safe.
Dr. Tim,
Yes.
you know, I've been watching that guy, Jones, the one who was shot. I can tell you something about him.
What?
He's loony. You know what he does?
No.
He collects rocks, believe it or not. Just common old rocks.
Well, that's a harmless pastime.
Sure got him in a mess of trouble.
Maybe you've got a point there, Sandy. But why would anybody shoot a man for collecting rocks? Unless they were gold or something.
Whoever shot him was after those rocks, all right. When you left me alone with Mr. Jones in the room upstairs, I sort of noticed that several of his suitcases had been busted open. There were rocks with labels on them scattered all over the room. I'd sure like to know why.
It must have been midnight when I decided I couldn't get to sleep and might as well do a little looking around. After what we'd all been through, I wanted to forget the mystery and relax. The police could carry on from here. But I couldn't. So I went up the stairs to where the mysterious Mr. Jones hovered between life and death. I motioned the nurse to be silent and carefully examined the room. Sandy was right. There was nothing of interest except the rocks. There were hundreds of them, all sizes and all shapes, and all neatly labeled with cryptic little stickers which said Northwest 100A or South G8, referring no doubt to some location on a map where they had been gathered. I took a couple with me to examine at leisure in the laboratory and started downstairs when I noticed a light coming from under the door to Jill's room.
Come in.
Well, sort of late for a sick girl to be reading, isn't it?
Oh, honest, I've been asleep.
Well, it's lights out now. Doctor's orders.
Okay, Doctor. How's Mr. Jones? Is he going to live?
I wish I could tell you, Jill. The use of blood has given him a chance. First the transfusion, and then later maybe he'll need plasma.
What's that?
Oh, plasma's another part of blood, Jill. It can be stored indefinitely and won't spoil as quickly as whole blood. You use it when you don't need the red cells of the blood, just the liquid part.
Gee, blood is sure wonderful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Dr. Tim, what are you doing with those rocks in your hand?
Oh, these? Well, they're from Mr. Jones' room. Seems to be a lot of them up there.
Are they anything special?
I don't know, Jill. Sandy mentioned them, and I thought...
Gee whiz. I'll bet I know what they are. I was reading in the paper tonight. Everybody's out looking for them.
For what?
Well, gosh, I forget what you call it. But prospectors go out with some kind of electric machines, and they...
I just stood there with my mouth hanging open. What a dope I'd been. It took 2 kids to tell me what I should have seen from the very first moment. Without even saying goodnight to Jill, I dashed down the stairs, picked up the telephone, and called the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This was a case for the G-Man. It took a couple of weeks before the case was cleared up. My hunch, thanks to the work of Sandy and Jill, had been right. Jones had been prospecting for uranium, the vital mineral for atomic energy and research. Jones told us the whole story later, how he was prospecting for the government, which badly needed new supplies of uranium. How he'd been forced at the point of a gun to give up his map and then brutally shot. The G-men caught the man, all right, but never gave out the whole story of who was behind the robbery and the attempted murder. But it wasn't anyone working for the good of this country. Jones had really found uranium, too, and the mine is being worked today, thanks to Sandy, to Jill, and to a mysterious substance known for thousands and thousands of years as blood. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, saying so long until next week at this same time, when Sandy, Jill, and I will dip into my case book and bring out a brand new transcribed story, The Mystery of the Man from Trouble Creek. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you by transcription The Mystery of the Man from Trouble Creek. It was Jill, my landlady's daughter, who first brought the case to my attention. You see, Jill and her pal Sandy have helped me out on a lot of my cases, which are usually of the sort where mystery and medicine are combined. This morning, Jill and Sandy were standing by while I was looking for some rare but dangerous microbes under the powerful microscope I have in my laboratory. I don't know how the conversation started, but I remember Jill asking suddenly,
Dr. Tim, you don't always get paid for your cases, do you?
well, I'm not suffering from any want, if that's what you mean. I have standard fees for my crime investigations.
Well, I don't mean exactly that. I was thinking of charity work.
Well, you see, Jill, those are things that any doctor just naturally does in the course of events without any thought of reward.
But would you help out a person? Just somebody in trouble the same way?
Of course I would. Any doctor would. If you knew the number of free cases that doctors handle each year, you'd faint.
Well, this isn't exactly a medical case. Well, it sort of is, too, but...
There's something up your sleeve, isn't there?
Well, I just kind of feel sorry for her.
Oh? For whom?
Mrs. Edwards. She's a friend of Mother's, and she hasn't any money and a family to take care of, and... Well, gee, Dr. Tim, she sure needs help bad. You see, her husband's sick. Only that isn't the worst part. He's disappeared. I thought maybe you might talk to her, and maybe you and I...
And that was the way I first learned of the strange disappearance of Arnold Edwards, the man from Trouble Creek. Later that afternoon, Sandy and Jill brought Mrs. Edwards to my office.
You see, Doctor, my husband and I live on a small rented farm at Trouble Creek. We have 3 tiny children, and, well, things just haven't been working out. In a money way, I mean.
Well, gosh, don't they have places where you can go and get some help?
Now, Sandy, just wait until Mrs. Edwards has finished her story.
Everything went along pretty well until my husband started feeling bad a few months ago. He tried awful hard, but he just couldn't seem to get the farm work done.
Just what kind of illness was it?
I don't know. It's awful hard to get a doctor, and, well, there was the money, too. He complained of feeling tired, and he lost a lot of weight, and I thought he looked like he had a fever.
Did he cough?
I don't remember. Oh, yes, he did have a bad cold.
How long did it last?
That's the funny part. It never did seem to go away. It wasn't bad, but there was that cough that seemed to come back all the time.
Gosh, Dr. Tim, what good are all those questions? He just walked away from home and disappeared.
Well, yes, and even the police can't find him.
Now, look, you kids. Every mystery has a number of causes, and you can't know too much about the background of everybody concerned in one. If you think detective work, or medical work either, is just a matter of chasing around and getting into exciting scrapes, you'd better think again. All right, Mrs. Edwards, go on.
Well, finally, my husband did ask the county nurse where to go for help, and she told him to come to town, here. That was 3 weeks ago, and I haven't heard a word from him since. Oh, doctor, isn't there something you can do?
Well, there I was. You can't say no to an appeal like that. And besides, she was Sandy's and Jill's own case, if you want to put it that way. The first time they'd actually come to me for help. I may be a sucker, but I just can't seem to turn down people in a jam. Mrs. Edwards was staying for a couple of days right in the house as a guest of Jill's mother. So I decided to find out as much of the picture as I could. First, I called the Missing Persons Bureau of the police department.
Sure, Doctor, anything you want. You've given us enough help in your time, but I'm afraid there's nothing here on it. A usual routine investigation. Yes, we've checked the hospitals, the morgue, looked in on the missions for destitute men, Salvation Army and all that. No luck. After all, the man isn't a criminal, and there isn't very much to go on. Yes, you're welcome.
I tried a few leads of my own, including a telephone call to the county nurse. But she was away on vacation. I was sure she must have given Edwards a card or letter to some specific medical agency. And so the next thing to do was to make a thorough check of all those. On the 4th call, I found what I wanted.
Yes, Doctor, we gave him an examination. Skin test, x-rays, a thorough checkup. Yes, tuberculosis. A pretty advanced case, too. No address except the farm at Trouble Creek. No, he came back in person, and we advised him of what the matter was and what to do. Disappeared? Well, that's odd. No, I haven't the slightest idea. Yes, you're welcome.
And there we were, at a dead end again. It wasn't even any news to me to discover that the Welfare Medical Center had diagnosed Edwards' disease as tuberculosis. From what his wife had said, the conclusion was obvious. the loss of weight, the wasting away process which gave the disease its original name of consumption, the fever, the cough, the tiredness, and inability to work, all those were signs that the dread tubercle bacilli, the cause of tuberculosis, were at their deadly work inside his lungs. If the man was to live, those lungs must have rest, complete rest, to allow the healing processes of nature to do their job. That meant a hospital, specialized care, months, perhaps, of expert attention. But why had he disappeared from home? It wasn't until the day that Mrs. Edwards left to go back to Trouble Creek that things began to make sense. Sandy and Jill dropped into the laboratory, and Sandy announced proudly,
Well, I guess we aren't so dumb.
No, sir. You said to get background about everybody in the case, and we've got it.
Well, let me disinfect my hands. I've been analyzing some poisons. Maybe we'd better have a conference. Find yourselves a chair there.
Okay.
We've got everything written down in a notebook. First, I want to say we interviewed Mrs. Edwards thoroughly.
An excellent idea.
Okay. Arnold Edwards, 39. Farmer. Born 1909. 2 brothers, 1 sister.
I guess that's just like the way you put information down about your patients, isn't it, Dr. Tim?
Oh, exactly.
Went to school through the 6th grade. Then had to find work because of family
I must admit that after my week's rush of work and the extra task of trying to locate the missing farmer, I began to nod as Sandy and Jill in turn went through the long and irrelevant history of Mr. Edwards' life. I thought with a wry smile that I'd done my work too well when I suggested that backgrounds were important in a mystery. I hadn't the heart to cut him off. And then, coming to attention at a word or two after what seemed hours of case history, I snapped suddenly, Hey, go back there a few words. What was that you said?
You mean about Mr. Edwards' mother?
Here it is, Mrs. Edwards. Quote, 2 years ago, my husband's mother died. That was just before my youngest baby was born. She had lived with us
What did she die of?
She had it says here a
Hemorrhage?
of the lung.
Now, hold on a minute. Answer this carefully. Did Mr. Edwards realize that his mother had died of tuberculosis?
Oh, sure. His wife said it was a very sudden thing as far as they knew it.
And the doctor talked it over with him. Gee, I thought TB took a long, long time to kill anybody.
Not necessarily. Many times its onset and the resulting death are very rapid.
Anyway, I'm lost. Do you mean Mr. Edwards could have inherited it from his mother?
No. Tuberculosis can't be inherited, but it can be transferred through contact. Anyone who lives with a tubercular person should have frequent x-rays and tests to determine if he has gotten the disease.
Hey, what does all this have to do with Mr. Edwards' disappearance?
It gives us the reason, without a doubt.
What's that?
Just this. I'm sure the doctor who attended old Mrs. Edwards informed her son of the dangers of getting the disease by association. Well, when he suspected that he, too, had it, he took the only course. He made sure by a medical examination, and then, rather than expose his family to TB any further, he did what he considered the only possible thing. He disappeared from home, probably to die somewhere alone.
To die? But gee whiz, can't TB be cured?
It can. It's dropped from 1st to 8th place as a cause of death just in the last few years, thanks to medical science.
Then we can save him.
We can, and we will, if, and it's a big if we can find him. Now, go on with that background information. There were 2 clues to Mr. Edwards' probable whereabouts. The fact that before he became ill, he was interested in raising chickens and had hoped to experiment with breeding them to develop some new strains. The second point might or might not be important. He had been a bricklayer at one time in his life. And so, the search was on. We drew blanks on both scores. I was sure that our missing man would not be well enough for the heavy labor of laying bricks, but with the help of a picture which his wife had mailed us, we canvassed every building contractor in town. We did the same with every poultry raiser in the district. None had hired him. Dejected, we had just about decided that our man had left this part of the country when a telephone call came from Mrs. Edwards at Trouble Creek.
Doctor, I've had a letter from him, from right here in town. All he says is that I shouldn't worry, not to forget him, and he'll send whatever money he can until he dies. He doesn't want me to find him for the good of myself and the children. Oh, doctor, please, please find him for me.
By this time, both the kids and I were frantic. I'd spent so much time on the case that my regular work was growing into a mountain of back-breaking labor. And the farther away from a solution the matter looked, the more determined I was that I was going to save a stubborn human being from the death that would surely come unless I could find him and persuade him to enter a hospital for treatment. The doggone fool, I thought. Doesn't he know there are special hospitals right here in the state for TB patients who can't afford to pay? It had been over a week since our search had started. Was it possible that it was such a short time? Wearily, I threw myself onto a chair and tried to think. Sandy and Jill knocked quietly at my door. Come in.
Nothing new, I guess, huh?
No,
Gosh, we feel kind of like heels not helping any. I guess there isn't anything else to do.
I'm afraid not, kids.
We thought maybe we'd go see the state fair. Tonight's the last night, and I'd sure hate to miss all the roping and the rodeo and the exhibits and everything.
Yeah, it's really going to be a Lulu. Want to come along?
Oh, I'm afraid I'm too tired, kids. You go on.
You wouldn't have to do much of anything. If you don't want to watch the show, you could just wander through the exhibits and think. Hardly anybody's there when the show's going on in the arena.
Well, sure. They have lots of interesting things. Rabbits and funny-looking ears of corn. And the craziest bunch of birds and chickens you ever saw. Why, some of them have feathers clear down to the ground and colored top knots, and they don't even look like chickens, lots of them, and...
Chickens. Good gosh, do you suppose...
Don't even stop to talk. Get me my hat and coat and let's get in that car, but fast. It's our last chance. A half hour later, I walked quietly up and down the aisles of the almost deserted poultry exhibit of the fair. My heart was beating fast. I glanced from time to time at the picture in my hand. 1 false alarm. 2, 3. And then...
You look lost, mister. Is something I can do for you? I work here, and if there's
Yes,
anything...
there is. I have a message from your wife, Mr. Edwards. Now, I don't want you to say a word. I want to talk to you about finding a hospital that will cure you. All those lungs need is a rest. Simple surgery, if needed, can do much to make you a new man. Your family have been examined and haven't taken the disease. Your wife is heartbroken, and your kids are crying for you. So how about it, fella? Shall we talk? This is Dr. Tim Detective saying so long until next week at this same time, when Sandy, Jill, and I will dip into my casebook for the exciting transcribed story I call The Mystery of the Second Alarm.
This is Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you by transcription The Mystery of the Second Alarm. Well, the first caller who knocked on the door to my laboratory and consulting room one morning a few weeks ago was a woman in her early 30s who gave her name as...
I'm Mrs. Hugh A. Miller, Doctor, and I live in the next house just beyond the vacant lot.
Won't you sit down, Mrs. Miller?
Yes, thank you. I've been told that you're both a doctor and a detective.
Yes, you might call it that, but I don't, as a rule, take private cases. What is your problem?
Well, I have every reason to believe that my husband's father, who lives with us, is, well, not quite right, if you know what I mean. And in the next place, I think he's hiding a fortune.
I'm afraid I don't quite see what you...
Well, I thought you might examine him. You know, put him away somewhere for a little while.
But that's a matter for a psychiatrist. You'd have to get his consent or else fill out papers in a legal...
Oh, no. That's just what I don't want to do. There mustn't be any publicity. You see, what I want is to get him out of the house long enough to make a thorough search of his room. He never leaves it. And I'm sure he has thousands and thousands of dollars hidden in that room somewhere. I've almost caught him several times, but he's too crafty.
Mrs. Miller, what you're proposing is highly irregular, perhaps even criminal. I'll forget what you've told me, but I... Just at that moment, there was a disturbance in the hall outside. I recognized the voices of my two friends, Sandy and Jill, and a third I'd never heard before. Jill is my landlady's daughter, and Sandy's a pal of hers. I opened the door, and into the room they walked, with a policeman grasping each one firmly by the arm.
You the doctor?
Yes?
These kids say they're friends of yours.
Honest, Dr. Tim, we didn't mean any harm.
We're just having some fun. Gosh, how will we know them?
Let them fire the weeds in the lot next door they was. And if I hadn't been walking along on the way home...
Well, he says he ought to put us in jail.
Now, hold on a moment, both you kids. Officer, I think we both realize how serious setting fires can be.
Burn the whole neighborhood down playing with matches, they will.
Well, we didn't mean it.
However, I can vouch for them if you'll
Just
only...
one moment, officer. I'd like to say that it isn't the first time they've been in trouble for setting fires. Oh, I knew all right. After all, I've lived on the other side of that lot for several years, and I can tell you...
I looked at Mrs. Miller in amazement, and I should have been able to see right then what she was getting at, but I didn't. Jill and Sandy don't ordinarily play with fire, and they aren't problems to the neighborhood. I ought to know, because we've been friends a long time, and they've given me some mighty valuable help in my cases. Anyway, within a few minutes, Officer Barton had turned them over to my care with a warning. Mrs. Miller had left after glaring at me with a look of hatred, and Sandy, Jill, and I were alone. From their looks, they were sorry kids. And I could tell they were expecting to really catch it this time. There they stood, silent and scared. Finally...
Gee, Dr. Tim, we're doped.
Bigger dopes than you realize, maybe. Let me see your hand, Sandy.
Oh, it's nothing. Just burned it a little.
Jill, hand me the sterile bandages.
Okay.
Thanks.
Ow!
Hold still until I get a dressing on that burn.
But aren't you going to put grease or something on it?
I am not. First, I'm going to clean the hand thoroughly to prevent any infection. Ointments and greasy medicines many times are the best means of spreading infection in burns. Of course, if it's a very severe burn, certain infection-stopping drugs are necessary.
Gosh, it hurts!
I could say at this point, young man, it serves you right. Now, hold still a moment. Yes, you're lucky. Ever see a human body with really bad burns on it? The kind you might have had if your clothes had caught on fire in that vacant lot?
No.
Well, not a pretty sight. It can mean months in the hospital. Infection so bad to look at it would make you sick at your stomach. Dressings in burn cases often have to be changed under an anesthetic like ether because the pain is so terrible. And you go through more months of operations where skin is taken from unburned parts of your body and grafted to the places where the fire is burned clear down into the muscles. Sometimes you wish you'd died. You'd be scarred forever. Yes, doctors today can save the lives of people who have lost 70% of the skin in their bodies with penicillin, with blood transfusions and blood fractions, and with modern hospital care. But believe me, it's the most horrible pain in the world. All right, Sandy, your burn is dressed. I'll look at it again tomorrow. Above all, don't break those blisters.
Okay, Dr. Tim.
Honest to gosh, Dr. Tim, we'll never play with fire again.
About a half hour later, Sandy and Jill had gone to think over what I'd told them, I hope. And before settling down to some chemical tests I was making in connection with a murder case, I happened to glance out of the window. Mrs. Hugh Miller, whom I'd almost forgotten in the excitement, was walking towards her house with a bundle under her arm. It was a rather sizable package and somewhat odd shape, and I didn't think much about it at the time. Instead, as I worked with my laboratory apparatus, I pondered upon the fantastic story of old Mr. Miller, her father-in-law, and the mysterious treasure he was supposed to have hidden in his room. I talked to him a few times, as neighbors will, the summer before. I'd put him down in my mental notebook as perfectly harmless, but a little queer. When the First World War had ended back in 1918, he'd been with the Army of Occupation in Germany for a while. He had a pension, he told me, and had decided a year or so ago to come live with his son and daughter-in-law. That was all I knew, except that his health was none too good, and he rarely left his room these days and hadn't been out of the house since fall. But where Mrs. Hugh Miller had gotten hold of the idea that her father-in-law was hiding a treasure, I couldn't imagine. I wish now I'd taken the trouble to think things through, even talk to the old man. It might have saved a lot of suffering. It was just getting dark when I finished my lab test and glanced out of the window that faced the Miller house. I rubbed my eyes and looked twice, for at that moment there burst out of the Miller's back door an apparition wrapped in flame. If it hadn't been for the dreadful scream that burst from it, I would never recognize that flaming torch as a human being. In one bound, I was out of my door, over the fence, and running toward the Millers. Sandy and Jill were in front of me. From which direction they came, I didn't know. Still, the flame-covered creature ran around in circles. I shouted, "Sandy! Jill, stop him! Stop him! Don't let him run! Grab a blanket off that clothesline and wrap him up in it!"
Okay, Dr. Tim.
Before I could reach the Miller yard, Sandy and Jill had both made flying tackles at the flaming figure and were rolling him over and over in the dirt, smothering out the flame with the blanket. In a moment, I joined them. The thing, for that's the only way to describe it now, was still, except for a moaning sound that came out of his burned and agonized face. Oh, Lord, I thought. Why will people run when their clothes are on fire? To lie down and smother the flame is their only salvation. I was giving the man, for it was old Mr. Miller, first aid when his daughter-in-law came shouting out the door.
Help! Fire! Fire!
Gosh, I'll bet she hasn't even called the fire department.
I'll call them.
But Mrs. Miller went running back into the house, as Jill told me later, and was telephoning when Jill came panting up to her. By this time, the whole neighborhood was gathering around the house, and it seemed like hardly a moment after I turned again to the suffering figure lying on the grass that the fire engines came charging up, followed by an ambulance, a squad car, and all the rescue apparatus. The fire was quickly put out. It was only after the old man had been put into the ambulance that I had a chance to notice what was going on. The first thing I heard was Mrs. Miller shouting.
They did it. It was those two kids right there. You know yourself, officer, that you caught them setting fires this morning.
But how do you know they did?
I saw them running around the corner of the house just after I noticed the blaze. And I'll testify in court that they did it.
Well, you two kids, I don't know whether you're guilty or not, but I'll have to take you down to the station for questioning.
A few minutes later, the officer had left with Sandy and Jill. Both of them had thrown me anguished looks, but were bravely holding back their tears. I could have done something, I suppose, but there wasn't time. I had to get into that house as quickly as possible. I was beginning to put two and two together, and I was certain that what I would discover would solve a part of the mystery at least. I knew who had set that fire, and why. Whispering a few words into the ear of the fire chief, I saw him nod and lead the way into the Miller house, while Mrs. Miller was still talking excitedly with the neighbors. I hoped Mrs. Miller wouldn't see us go in, or she might destroy the very evidence to prove my case. It was at the door to the old man's room I found the first thing I was looking for. A home fire extinguisher, empty. The rug and the bedclothes were burned, and the room was filled with smoke. But aside from this, there was little evidence of the fire. On my hands and knees, I sniffed at the floor. There was an odor of kerosene, faint but recognizable. One more thing remained to do. I lifted the phone, dialed a number, waited until there was an answer, and asked one question. Hello? Dr. Tim speaking. Yes. Will you give me the exact time of the first telephone call to report the fire at 1216 East Beaumont Place? No, not the second. The first thing I did after finding out about those calls was to call the doctor at the hospital. The old man had a chance to live, thanks to the prompt way in which Sandy and Jill handled the emergency, and to modern hospital care and medical advances. He had been treated with a new technique discovered during the war, the use of pressurized Vaseline. Blood transfusions, blood fractions, all the miracles of modern science were being used. Then I hopped into my car and went down to the police station. Two scared kids faced me.
Dr. Tim, we didn't do
I
it.
know you didn't, kids, and I'm sorry I had to let things go as far as this. The real criminal's been arrested. And Officer Barton says to tell you he never really believed you set that fire in the first place. But he had to question you because of what Mrs. Miller said.
Oh, he treated us swell. But who did do it?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Well, it was a person who called upon me this morning. And I'm afraid she got the idea of how to scare an old man into disclosing the hiding place for his money when Officer Barton brought you into the office for starting fires in the vacant lot.
You mean Mrs. Miller?
I do. I should have known when I saw her walk past my window with a fire extinguisher. Wrapped up, but still I should have known.
But, gee, what happened?
Well, she meant just to scare the old man so he'd grab his money out of the hiding place and run. Everything went fine, except Mrs. Miller was too smart. She called the fire department first and then started the fire. I thought the trucks got there too quickly after the first alarm, which was really the second.
And, gee, I bet you put the fire out with the extinguisher, or almost out, so it really wouldn't burn the house down.
Exactly. And then blamed you two kids, which shows the importance of a good reputation. She almost got you convicted because of the fire this morning.
Yeah, hung the rap on us, by golly.
What about the treasure?
No, I guess we won't know the answer until old Mr. Miller can talk. And there's no trace of it.
Sure there was. I've got it right here in my pocket. The old man was clutching it in his hand when he ran out of the house.
Sandy handed me the remains of some charred banknotes. In one corner of each was printed a figure 1 million, 5 million, 50,000. Not dollars, but marks. Worthless, inflated German marks of 30 years ago. Not worth the paper they were printed on. You see, the old man had picked them up while he was in the Army of Occupation in Germany and had thought for years they'd be worth something, that he'd become a millionaire. And for that, he had almost lost his life. That and one other reason. When Mrs. Miller's plan had miscarried, and she'd set him on fire, too, he should have remembered the most elementary thing in the world. And that's don't get panicky. Don't run, even toward water. Just lie down and roll, or wrap yourself in something to smother the fire. I'll bet Sandy and Jill never forget it. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, saying so long until next week at this same time, when Sandy, Jill, and I will bring you, by transcription, The Mystery of the Dog That Did and Didn't. Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you, by transcription, The Mystery of the Dog That Did and Didn't. It had been a tiring week, and as I washed up after some experiments I'd been making to determine whether a certain murder case had involved the use of poison, I thought what a swell day it would be for a picnic in the mountains. It was early in November, and from my laboratory window, the mountains looked as if they'd been sprinkled with powdered sugar. I'll get Sandy and Jill, I told myself, and we'll make this a Saturday to remember. You see, Jill's my landlady's daughter, and Sandy lives up the street a ways. They've both been mighty useful from time to time in helping me to solve some mysteries. I turned off the water, dried my hands, and started to go out into the hall to call Jill and Sandy when the phone rang.
Hello, Tim?
Yes?
Jarvis speaking. I've got a case that looks right up your alley.
I sighed. There, I thought, goes my holiday in the mountains. Because whenever my old friend Dr. Jarvis calls, it's sure to be a case of more than ordinary interest. Jarvis works for the health department, and I've been consulted by him on problems before. He continued.
Yes, it's right in your neighborhood, too. They've just taken a woman to the hospital, and there's no doubt about it. She has Rocky Mountain spotted fever.
What? In November?
Interested, huh?
But the tick season's been over since, well, the middle of the summer.
Well, you can examine the woman yourself if you want to, but 3 doctors, including myself, have made the diagnosis, and it can't be wrong. Severe chills, followed by a fever of 104 or 5, pain in the muscles and joints, and get this, the spotting of the skin has already started this morning.
But where do I come in?
Well, you and I know there's one cause and one cause only for the spotted fever. Ticks. She's been bitten by an infected tick, and recently. But as you say, the tick season has been over for several months now. Why don't you go over to the house?
Now, look, Jarvis, what makes you think I'm the one?
Well, you're supposed to be good at that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. But don't expect any results. Spotted fever in the winter. This plain doesn't make sense, that's all. Now, give me that name and address. Slipping on my topcoat, I tried to make sense of the puzzle. The address was that of Mr. Herman May, just around the corner from me. I recognized the name. There was a Willie May, a few years older than Jill and Sandy, who played with him sometimes. And speaking of Sandy and Jill, it was curious, I thought, that I hadn't seen anything of them this morning. Usually on Saturdays, they'd be clamoring at my door. Well, I needn't wonder any longer. I called, "Come in!" Like a streak, a yapping white dog ran between my legs, jumped up and down in greeting, and then dashed around and around my laboratory, barking and sniffing in great excitement. Sandy and Jill followed the dog into the room more slowly, but obviously bursting with excitement.
Tiny, here, Tiny. Come back to this instant.
Oh, dear, I'm sorry, Dr. Tim. I was carrying him and he got away. Come here, Thomas.
The little ball of fur, silent now, came dancing into the laboratory from my adjoining bedroom. I blushed to admit that my bachelor housekeeping isn't all it should be. The dog proved that. For 2 days I'd been looking for that particular sock the dog carried in his mouth. It must have been under the bed.
Put it down, sir. Put it down at once.
The dog dropped the sock and wagged his tail nearly off.
Honest, I'm awful sorry, Dr. Tim. He belongs to Willie May, and his mother's in the hospital.
You mean the dog's mother?
Don't be ridiculous. I mean Willie's mother, and she has something awful. I forget what it's called. And
It's called Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever, and it's caused by the bite of a tick. Despite its name, the disease is found in almost every state of the Union. Only funny thing is, there aren't supposed to be any ticks around during the cold season.
Good gosh. How did you find out? About Mrs. May, I mean.
Detectives know everything, Sandy.
hey, how about I call him? Dr. Tim's been called in on the case already. Well, you can't keep us out of it because Willie May asked us to take care of his dog for him while he's staying over at his aunt's because Mr. May's working and can't get off, and he left the key with us so the doctor who's going to investigate can get in, and all the time it was you, Dr. Tim.
And what are we waiting for? Let's get going.
A few moments later, we unlocked the door to the May house and went in, silent and pondering. Our equipment consisted of flashlights for peering into dark corners in our search for the presence of another tick or two, which might have accounted for the illness of Mrs. May. Each of us had an envelope and a pair of tweezers, so as not to run the risk of crushing an infected tick and getting some of the deadly microbes upon ourselves. After a few joyful homecoming yelps, Tiny disappeared to some secret place of his own. We began the search in earnest. We divided the front room and the adjoining dining room into areas, calling across to each other as we searched for a chance tick that might be hiding.
Gee, I don't think I've ever even seen a tick, Dr. Tim.
Well, you can't miss one if you find it. They're grayish-brown little bugs. Oh, less than half the size of your little fingernail, which makes them pretty hard to see when they're in their natural setting.
Yeah, I know. I found them in rotting logs in the woods. But why does the bite of a tick give you spotted fever?
The bite of most ticks won't, but there's one particular kind of tick. We doctors call it Dermacentor andersoni, which can pass on the disease to human beings.
Gee, what a name.
But how do the ticks get the fever?
Well, they don't, Jill. They only carry the organism that causes it.
I wish you'd quit using those words. What the heck's an organism?
It's an agent which carries the disease, but it's so small that it can't be seen except through a microscope.
Yeah, but I still want to know.
Well, these ticks bite sheep or squirrels or prairie dogs or coyotes that have the disease, and then they bite people and pass it on to them. They're what we call carriers. They can pass spotted fever on, but don't have it themselves, you see.
Just like the mosquitoes that cause malaria.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like Typhoid Mary. We learned about her in school. She gave hundreds of people typhoid after she'd recovered from it herself. Didn't even know she was carrying the disease around.
Hey, I found something.
Don't touch it. Let me see it.
I thought it was a tick. It's only an old piece of rubber band.
Well, kids, we've covered these two rooms thoroughly. We can give them a clean bill of health. Let's move on towards the back of the house. By the time we'd covered the downstairs thoroughly, Sandy and Jill had received an elementary course in Rocky Mountain spotted fever. They learned that it's mostly in April, May, and June the ticks are active. They were made to realize the necessity for protecting oneself with heavy boots, stockings, gloves, and tightly buttoned shirts before going into areas in the mountains which are known to be full of ticks. They learned that the only way to make sure even then is to have one's body thoroughly inspected each evening before going to bed. I explained how to remove all ticks gently from the skin and to remove them without crushing. They learned that the clothing must be inspected as well and all danger of ticks hiding there eliminated. It was a good lesson, but we weren't any further along in our mystery. Just as we finished looking over the downstairs part of the house and the basement, the door opened, and Mr. May came in. We introduced ourselves and soon were deep in confidence.
Now, you ask Doctor if I have any old hunting clothes or a sheepskin jacket that I might have taken into Tick Country. I don't. I haven't been outside my car in the woods or the mountains for several years.
Well, what about the dog? Perhaps he had a...
Tiny? No. Tiny's never been on a trip during the year we've had him.
Tiny, hearing his name, came joyfully dashing in, bearing as a trophy exactly one half of what looked to be a bedroom slipper. Proudly, he laid it before Mr. May. We all quickly agreed that such a short-haired dog couldn't very well carry ticks without their being easily found. And besides, he'd had no chance to pick them up. There was nothing to do but continue our search. Slowly, we moved upstairs, Mr. May leading the way. Or rather, Tiny leading, with all of us following behind. It was in the closet of Mrs. May's room that our first break came in the case. Sandy gave a shout.
Look, a tick. Right here on Mrs. May's fur coat.
Quickly, we gathered around. I took the coat, laid it on the bed, and then one by one hauled the clothes out of the closet. By the time we were finished, the count was 5 ticks. Under my magnifying glass, all of them we easily identified as the carrier of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, the wood tick Derma center Andersoni, in the clothes closet of a house in town months after the tick season was over. Here was a mystery indeed. In fact, in the excitement of our discovery, I overlooked what turned out to be one of the most important clues in the whole case. Tiny, the dog, came bounding into the room with a small box in his mouth. He shook his head back and forth as if he were worrying a bone. Suddenly, the lid of the box flew off, and over the carpet flew out a mess of butterflies, the fruit of some collector's search of the previous summer.
Honey, shame on you. Go away. Here, Dr. Tim, I'll pick some up.
And with a farewell to Mr. May and a promise to resume our detective work later, I took the kids out to eat. It was an hour later. We sat over dessert in a downtown restaurant, with both kids feeding their week's allowance into a jukebox while we discussed the progress of the case.
Well, I got a theory anyway. I think it was murder.
Oh, now, Sandy. No one's dead in the first place. How could it even be attempted murder? Not one person in a million would think of scattering wood ticks around a room in the hope that the right victim would get spotted fever.
Well, I don't know. Perhaps Mr. May hated his wife.
Oh, that's complete utter nonsense. Why, those ticks could have bitten him, or young Willie, or me.
Hey, that reminds me. We looked all over that doggone house, but we didn't remember the secret room in the basement.
Secret room? What is this, a Middle Ages thriller?
Oh, it isn't really a secret room. It's Willie's photographic laboratory. Who else heard of where he keeps his collections, too? I've heard him tell about it.
Sure, you go through kind of a winding passage, all painted black, so the light won't spoil the pictures Willie developed.
Let me stop and think a moment. What sort of collections does Master Willie make?
Oh, butterflies and bugs and stuff.
Well, gee, I bet that's where Tiny got that box of fur for.
Now, hold on a second. You mean the dog can go in and out of that room as he pleases?
Sure he can.
Well, but gee whiz, Dr. Tim, what's the connection?
I'm not sure. But I think I know how Mrs. May got spotted fever. You kids hop in the car outside and I'll make 2 phone calls. And maybe I'll come up with the answer. And I did. The first call was to young Willie May at his aunt's house. I asked one question. Willie said yes. He did collect a lot of miscellaneous insects the summer before. Some of them were ticks. The second call was to a specialist friend of mine who is an authority on the habits of insects. He assured me that certain insects, the wood tick among them, can live in hibernation for months and still have enough life to attach themselves to a human being and cause the disease. It was obvious that Willie's tick collection, scattered around the bedroom by the dog, just as he'd scattered the butterflies, was the solution to the mystery. And it turned out later it was. Sandy and Jill were full of questions, but only 1 or 2 were to the point.
Well, what about Mrs. May? Will she get well?
Well, she has an excellent chance, Jill. Spotted fever is often fatal, but one of the new wonder-working drugs is being used in a lot of cases these days. They're using it on her.
Gosh, isn't there some kind of stuff like vaccination for spotted fever?
There is, but there isn't much reason for anyone to have those inoculations unless he plans to go into places where ticks might reasonably be found. It's not a sure method of preventing spotted fever. Even if used, the injections must be taken 6 weeks before exposure. Being careful is the only answer.
Well, this was your one case where a dog was the carrier of a disease. And yet he wasn't. Not in the usual way.
Yeah, the mystery of the dog that did.
I puzzled over that one and finally came to a compromise. It's the mystery of the dog that did and didn't. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, saying so long until next week at the same time, when Sandy, Jill, and I will bring you by transcription the mystery of the girl from Singapore.
This is Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you by transcription the mystery of the chest of dynamite. You couldn't have asked for anything nicer than the way that day started out. Sandy and Jill, they're special pals of mine, had insisted that this was the day for the hike. 4 miles over the mountain and back again. I tried to protect my aging bones by protesting, but it was no use. I was outvoted.
Gee, gosh, Dr. Tim, we've already explored everything around the cabin.
Well, sure, what's a vacation in the mountains for if you're just going to sit around and be lazy?
Besides, it isn't healthy. Everybody needs exercise.
All right. But as a doctor, I resent having my own advice flung in my teeth. I merely said that a certain amount of mild exercise was good for the Constitution.
That's just it. The hike over the mountain will be just exactly that certain amount and no more.
Oh, my aching back tomorrow.
Aw, come on.
All right. Jill, you fix up a lunch.
You bet I will.
And Sandy, be sure the car windows are rolled up in case of rain.
Okay.
You better lock it while you're at it. Never can tell who might come prowling around, even this far off the beaten track.
Check.
And that's how I got myself mixed up in what I like to call the mystery of the chest of dynamite. Because if we hadn't started off on that hike, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, among the unusual features of the mystery, perhaps the chief one was that I got mad. Good and mad. More angry, in fact, than I had in all the years I'd gone through life as a combination of doctor and detective. Because the chief thing that makes me mad is criminal carelessness and stupidity. Well, anyway, we headed for the mountains.
Gee, Dr. Tim, aren't we going to stop and rest at all?
Exercise, my dear Jill, is excellent for the human constitution. You said so. Why should we pamper these soft bodies with restful ease when vigorous and health-giving stimulation lies right upon our path?
Boy, the next time I open my big mouth.
Of course, if I weren't about to give out myself,
relief is in sight.
I'd walk till you dropped.
I'm dropping already.
However, unless my eyes deceive me, that looks like a farmhouse to the left, about 1,000 yards away.
Oh, boy. Milk. Gallons of it.
Yeah.
No milk, unless it's pasteurized, kids. You'll have to stick to canned milk until we get back to town. I was thinking of a nice haystack to stretch out on, with the owner's permission, of course. A picnic lunch in the pasture.
Hey, somebody's waving at us.
Where?
Why, see him? He's running from the house and motioning us to come over.
I still don't. Oh, yeah, I do. I wonder what's the matter.
See, somebody must be in trouble.
Well, get your second wind and follow me. Maybe somebody's been injured. Come on, hurry up. In just a few moments, we were getting the story from the old man. He must have been near 70.
And so when I see you, I was hoping it might be some of the neighbors that could go for some help. Or just my doggone luck to have it turn out to be some city folks. Say, you're supposed to be can ride a horse,
Why, can?
Sure, me too.
Now, just a minute, everybody. This what's the matter?
Matter? Why, matter enough. Why, I'm up here all by myself. Too darn lame to get on horseback. Yes, sir, and I told that darn wife of mine, and that fool daughter, too, that it just weren't right of taking the only automobile on the place and going out traipsing off there to the city. For a week, mind you. Why, they ain't even due back till day after tomorrow. If you ask me, that's going to be too late. Yes, sir, too late. And then they'll blame me.
Now, look. Blame you for what? Is something wrong?
Wrong? Why, everything's been wrong since my daughter's husband got killed in that there war. Why, this ain't no place for a little kid, this ain't. And I said so more than 1,000 times.
Please. Is somebody hurt? I'm a...
Hurt? Why, there ain't nothing here to hurt nobody. Why, it just came down with the sore throat at first, it did. Nobody can blame me for that. If Miss Mo hadn't gone to traipse me off there
Dr. Tim, I think he means there's a sick kid in that house.
Why, of course there is. Ain't I been telling you why?
Well, good gosh, why didn't you say what was the matter? I need to realize...
I didn't wait to hear more, but left Sandy and Jill explaining to the old man as I dashed inside the house and found the bedroom. Sick kid was an understatement. I didn't know what was the matter, but as I stooped down over the bed and got a look at the child, about 5 years old, I'd guess, I knew one thing. The fight was now with death. Well, I'd been in some tight situations, but never one like this. My car, and of course my medical bag was in it, was several miles over the mountain. The nearest phone was 14 miles away. That child was dying, and for help, I had 2 kids and a doddering, half-scared-to-death old man. Silently, I worked over the child, trying to ease the breathing, going over in my mind the things that might be wrong, summoning all the knowledge of my lifetime, trying to think what treatment I could give. In a few moments, the old man entered.
You're kind of sick, ain't he?
Very sick. First off, it seems to be some kind of poisoning. When did he eat last?
Well, let me see now. Oh, must have been 4 or 5 days, reckon. He ain't wanted nothing since.
Mm-hmm. What did he eat?
Oh, he ain't had nothing that I ain't had myself. Not been fine. Except this darn rheumatism. Seems like every year the darn
How did
rheumatism...
it start?
You mean the rheumatism? Well,
The
I guess...
child. Sore throat, cold, fever?
Well, he did sort of complain about feeling hot and chilly and said his his throat was hurting.
I went over a rapid list in my mind. Diphtheria, none of the signs. Scarlet fever, same. But something toxic, something poison was working in that child's body. And unless I could find out, the end was a matter of hours. The pulse was rapid, fretty, the breathing difficult, and the temperature, even without a thermometer, I knew it was dangerously high. Suddenly I had a thought. I turned to the old man. You drive a car?
Me? Nope, never been behind the wheel one whole life.
I can, Dr. Tim. I know I'm not old enough to have a license, but my dad's been teaching me.
Where that car has to be driven, you won't need a license, Sandy. I've got to have that medical bag, and I've got to have the car here in case I decide we dare move the child and get into a hospital. And I can't leave. It'd be as bad as murder. You think you could get the car here over that trail we came in on the other day?
Well, I think so.
I ought to be shot for letting you try. And I'm afraid it means a life. Here are my keys. Catch. Now run. Run over the mountain as you've never run before. An hour passed. The child was resting more easily. Jill and I took turns wiping his face and trying to make him more comfortable. With straining ears, I listened for the car. Would Sandy make it? Well, it was too soon to tell yet. Lost in thought, it wasn't until Jill repeated what she was saying to me that it sank into my consciousness.
Dr. Tim, the old man says he doesn't want to bother you, but maybe it's time to give Jimmy some more of his medicine.
Jimmy. Strange. I never thought of the child as having a name. And then suddenly... What? What was that you said?
His medicine. The old man's been rambling on about it since we came.
With one bound, I was at the door to the bedroom calling the old man. In a moment, he appeared.
Yes, sir, a fine kind of doctor, not to give 'em folks something they can take. Why, that poor little kid in there...
You've been giving this child medicine?
Well, of course I have. Real drugstore medicine, too. The doc down there 7 Mile, he fixed it up for me when I had a sore throat last winter. Same as Kid Jimmy here got.
Quick, let me have that bottle.
Yes, sir, I got it right here in the medicine cabinet.
As I turned my head once again to listen to the sound of a motor car, an idea was beginning to shape itself in my mind. If that medicine was what I thought it might be, I snatched the bottle from the old man's hand as he came inside the door.
Dr. Tim, what's the matter?
Sulfa. You've been giving this child an adult dose of sulfa for 5 days.
Yeah, give it to him just like it says here on the bottle.
But, Dr. Tim, I thought the sulfa drugs were good for sore throats and all kinds of infections.
Yes, like rat poison is good for a rat.
You mean I oughtn't have done it?
Sit down and listen. Listen carefully before you murder someone else. More people have been killed by taking the wrong drugs than are killed in any war.
But the doc told me.
Yes, he told you to take it, not that child. It was your prescription for your illness. You were safe taking it. It wasn't meant for Jimmy. Do you know what's happened to that child?
Oh, what, Dr. Tim?
He's dying of uremic poisoning. That sulfa drug, too big a dose, has formed crystals in his kidneys, has plugged them up until they can't work for Jimmy anymore. All the poisons, the waste matter from the kidneys have been killing him for days.
Oh, gee willikers, Doc, I didn't mean to do anything.
Of course you didn't mean to hurt him, but you tied the safety valve down on the boiler. Oh, I'd like to take the contents of half the medicine chests of this country and dig a pit and bury them. Evaporated iodine, left for goodness knows how long, to burn and scar an innocent victim. Poisons, taken in the belief they're antiseptics. Sleeping pills that kids get hold of and kill themselves. Ammonia, lye, cleaning fluid, right in the medicine chest for folks to drink some night. Medicine chests. They're chests of dynamite, that's what. And you... Oh, what's the use? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lose my temper. Okay, Jimmy. Lie still now. You'll be better soon. The next half hour was broken only by the softly spoken conversation between Jill and myself as we sped our thoughts to Sandy in the car. A rough job for a kid with no experience in driving.
Dr. Tim, can you do something? I mean, when your medical bag gets here.
I hope so, Jill. It all depends upon what I did the other day when I left my laboratory.
Well, what? I mean, how does that happen?
Well, I had a supply of spinal anesthetic. You know, the stuff you use for operations when you don't want to give ether. You inject it into the spine.
I know.
I think I put it in my bag. I'm praying that I did.
Will spinal anesthetic help?
It will probably save Jimmy's life. You see, Jill, in the last war, a lot of soldiers took an overdose of sulfa. They didn't know they were supposed to drink lots of water and take baking soda with it. And at first, the Army doctors thought the only way to save their lives was to operate upon the kidneys.
You mean there was another way?
Sure. The doctors discovered by accident that when they gave the spinal anesthetic to get the soldier ready for the operation, the anesthetic itself often seemed to start the kidneys to working again without the operation.
Golly. Then if you do have some in your bag...
Yes. Even at that, it's dangerous business, Jill. To inject that anesthetic is dangerous in itself. It really should be done in a hospital. But driving 40 miles over these roads would mean sure death for Jimmy.
Listen!
Oh, Lord. It has to be. Run! Run, Jill! Quick! Well, Sandy was the hero of the day, all right. Although I wake up nights sometimes in horror at the thought of his wrestling that car over the trail to the ranch. Luck had been with me. That medicine was in my bag. A couple of times we thought we'd lose Jimmy, but he did pull through. But the funny thing was the way my getting sore acted on the old farmer. As soon as Jimmy pulled over the hump, he had a celebration. I was napping peacefully on the couch when...
Okay, Doc, I done it. I tore that medicine chest plumb out of there. Ain't going to have no more dynamite around here. No sirree bub.
Well, I chuckled to myself. You're never too old to learn. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, saying so long until next week at this same time, when Sandy, Jill, and I will bring you the exciting transcribed mystery of the Poisoner at Large. is Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you by transcription The Mystery of the Poisoner at Large. It isn't very often these days that you run across a case of wholesale poisoning. But when you do, well, there's never a dull moment until you've tracked the whole thing down. There's nothing worse than to be poisoned, whether you take the wrong medicine out of your medicine cabinet by mistake, or whether it's fed to you by somebody else, as it was in this particular case which came to my attention not so long ago. But I'd better start right at the beginning. Sandy and Jill, they're a couple of my very best friends and helpers, were watching me at work in my laboratory this particular evening, and, as usual, the questions flew thick and fast.
Sure, I get the general idea, but what's that machine for?
It sure makes enough racket.
Well, as I was saying, it's called a centrifuge.
That explains everything, I guess.
Yeah, I can see it just about as easy as a black sheep in a coal mine. At night.
Okay, kids, I'll back up a little. You see, when you have several kinds of bacteria, or bugs, I guess you'd call them, or when you want to separate one part of a substance from another, you put them in a centrifuge, turn on the switch, and the machine whirls them around at a few thousand revolutions per minute.
Then what happens?
Presto, like this. The centrifuge separates the lighter from the heavier parts. In this case, the bacteria I'm hoping to find from the solution they grew in. And, well, here you are. Look for yourselves.
Gee, it worked.
I'll be darned.
Now, I'll transfer these bacteria to a culture.
Here we go again.
Well, a culture is merely something for the bacteria to grow in and feed from.
Oh.
In this case, I'm going to use the fertilized egg of a chicken. And if the experiment works, I'll soon know if these bacteria can live and grow in living tissue. At other times, the culture might be milk or a sugar solution, or even a bit of custard pie. It's a way we scientific detectives have of finding out a lot of things.
I don't see much detective work there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, Sandy. You'd be surprised. Hello.
Hello, Tim. Is that you?
Oh, hello, Jarvis. How are things down at the health department?
Well, we could sure use you right now if you've got the time. We're pretty short-handed, and something's come up I don't like at all. Right in your neighborhood.
Well, anything serious?
14 calls during the last hour, and all from your part of town. Food poisoning, I think.
Any clues?
Not yet. Haven't had time to check thoroughly. Thought you might help there. Like to get out your set of false mustaches and do a little detective work?
Why, Dr. Jarvis, you know us junior G-men have given up disguises. The latest thing is to graft noses on us like a bloodhound.
All right, any way you please. Now, I'll give you a list of the names and addresses of everybody we have that's been reported so far, and let you get to work in your own way.
A few minutes later, Sandy, Jill, and I were mapping out our campaign. Now, some people think it's kind of funny for a combination doctor and detective to count on a couple of kids for help on a case. But let me tell you that those two are just about the most valuable assistants I have. In between phone calls reporting new cases of food poisoning, we outlined the problem and our work.
So you mean you'd like us to get a complete list of everything the sick people ate today?
Exactly. And then by putting those lists together, we ought to find that all of them had one kind of food somewhere along the line, or ate at the same restaurant, perhaps. In other words, you see, we need a common factor to start with.
I get it. You're trying to track down where the food poisoning came from.
Exactly. And that way we can stop anyone else from eating the contaminated food.
But gee, what is it? Arsenic or rat poison or something?
Well, that's what I'm going to find out by a careful laboratory analysis after I visit a couple of those sick people. However, I'm willing to bet that we'll find our old friends, the bacteria, at the bottom of it.
Germs, huh?
Yes. Well, let's get going, kids.
Milk and canned soup and cream pie. Oh, yes. Dr. Tim would like to know where you bought the pie, or if you...
Let's see if I have it right, Miss Greta. You and your wife ate hamburgers, canned pork and beans, and drank coffee. Dr. Tim told me to ask you where you bought the hamburgers. The rest of the things don't
And you
matter.
didn't eat anything at home, is that right? Now I'm supposed to find out at which restaurant you ate.
Thanks. Now, let's be sure I have it right. Steak, potatoes, fresh carrots, and chocolate eclairs. Be sure that's everything. Dr. Jim wants to be sure.
By the time I arrived home, after looking in on some of the patients, I had enough laboratory material to keep me busy for quite a spell. Samples of food from several homes, minute bits of waste from the patients, and lists similar to those Sandy and Jill were compiling. I went into my laboratory and sat down for a few moments to think. So far, nothing about the case made sense, except that all those people did have food poisoning. No doubt about that. And some of them were mighty sick indeed. There'd be a lot more if we didn't track down the source of the trouble in a hurry, stop anyone else from eating the germ-laden food. Silently, I went to work. A few minutes later, Sandy and Jill were going over their lists of the food eaten by the poisoned patients with Dr. Jarvis. And as I adjusted my microscope for the umpteenth time, I found what I was looking for. I motioned the others over. Well, here's the criminal.
See, let me see.
Yeah, me too.
They all peered into the microscope. Dr. Jarvis was the first to speak.
Nasty little germs, Salmonella.
What's salmonella?
I suppose it accounts for more food poisoning than all the other bacteria put together. Doesn't kill very many people. It sure makes a lot of them plenty sick.
Did you find out where it came from?
Unfortunately, no. There aren't any samples of the food I've tested so far that show its presence. The bacteria you see under the microscope are from the stomach contents of one of the patients.
Well, we're not having too much luck ourselves. Like to hear the reports of the investigation?
I think that's the next step.
Okay, Jill, you've been keeping score. Suppose you start.
Well, there isn't any one food that everybody ate.
No, wouldn't you know it?
Oh, it's worse than that. There aren't even two kinds of food on everybody's list. I mean, you know, half of them one thing and half another.
Mm-hmm.
It just plain doesn't make sense.
It looks like a dead end from here.
Well, let's do the best we can. Let's find the three items that appear oftenest in the list you've made. There just might be a connection. First, though, I think we can rule out canned food, because there hasn't been any real trouble with commercially canned food for years. And it's impossible that all those people ate the same home canned stuff that might have gone bad. This is going to be tougher than I thought. The results of our detective work were peculiar, to say the least. But we did prove one thing. There were 3 food items to be suspected, because one of those 3 appeared in all the diets of the ones who ate at home. With a flourish of his pencil, Dr. Jarvis summed it up.
Well, here we are. Those poisoned people had either hamburger in some form, cream pie, or chocolate eclairs. Doesn't make sense.
Wait a minute, I've got an idea. I've been working on the ones who ate out, and all of them had one of those 3.
Hold on a minute.
Wait till you hear this one. I've been doing the stores and the restaurants. Everybody that ate out went to the drugstore down on the corner.
This is beginning to add up to something.
Let me see your list, Joe. No, the other one. Uh-huh. All the pastry, the cream pies, and the chocolate eclairs came from one bakery.
Oh, sure, and we have meatloaf, hamburgers, meatballs, and tamale pie, all made with ground meat from the same butcher shop.
You're sure of that?
Uh-huh.
Now all we have to do is to chase all over town to those various stores, trying to find out what and why.
Gosh, no, you don't.
Don't what?
Don't have to chase all over town, or even this end of it. That bakery and the meat market and the drugstore where the people ate are all right together. Just 4 blocks down the street.
Say, wait a minute. If that's true, Jarvis, I think we might have the answer. Let's get going. Fast.
Come on, let's go. Come on.
As we drove the short distance to the shopping center, I got to thinking. You know, it's a funny thing about mysteries, especially complicated ones like this one, where people scattered over a wide area all come down with the same illness at once. At first, things don't even make sense. Look impossible, you might say. And then, with a bit of information added here and there, a dim pattern begins to take shape. Well, that's exactly what happened in the poison mystery this time. Here's what we knew. 3 food items caused those people to become deathly ill. Well, 2, really, because it occurred to me that the filling of cream pie and the filling of chocolate eclairs is the same. And the other was hamburger. Both items came from the same two stores. Those who had eaten at the drugstore had eaten either hamburger or the cream filling. What would be more logical than for the drugstore food to be purchased at the butcher shop next door and the bakery 2 doors down? So the pattern was now clear. Only one part of the mystery remained. How could both the pastry and the hamburger become poisoned with the germs of salmonella? And as we drove up in front of the stores and parked, an almost forgotten item of my medical training popped into my mind. I was sure I had the answer. Well, as we gathered in my laboratory a little later, Sandy, Jill, Dr. Jarvis, and myself, we were a happy gang. There wouldn't be any more cases of food poisoning from that source, at least. Lost in thought, I heard Sandy ask,
But gee, Dr. Tim, how come you went right into those stores and started looking for rats?
You sure fooled me.
well, as Dr. Jarvis could tell you as well as I, one of the commonest carriers of salmonella, the food poisoning bug, is rats and mice. A few of their droppings around a food store and, well, you've seen what happens.
Well, that's why we have inspections by the city and campaigns against rats and mice, even if you can't get results 100% of the time.
Well, why would just the cream filling in the hamburger be full of germs?
Well, you remember what I told you about cultures? The perfect material for bacteria to grow on?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, 2 of the best cultures in the world for salmonella are cream fillings and ground meat, especially in a warm place like the bakery, or when left outside the refrigerator in a butcher shop. It's the perfect setup for an epidemic like ours.
But why did those stores being right together give you the idea?
Elementary, my dear Sandy, elementary. It would be rather strange that 2 or 3 different sets of food poisoning would break out on the same day at widely separated spots. So figuring that adjoining buildings would offer plenty of opportunity for the same carriers to go back and forth freely, I apprehended the poisoners at large. It's a matter of get rid of the rats, get rid of the poisoners. And believe me, that's going to be done. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, saying so long until next week at this same time, when Sandy, Jill, and I will bring you the exciting transcribed story I call The Mystery of the House That Jack Built. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, to bring you by transcription The Mystery of the Man from Hiroshima. Even doctors have to do their spring house cleaning once a year, and on this particular day, my laboratory looked as if a cyclone had hit it. I'd enlisted the aid of Sandy and Jill, my 2 best friends and helpers, and hired a man to wash the walls and woodwork and do some painting. It wasn't until we were in the middle of the job that I remembered that I'd promised to get those X-ray pictures out by the next day. They're going to be pretty important in a murder trial at which I was testifying, and my good friend, the district attorney, wanted to go over the pictures with me at the earliest moment. Ordinarily, I would have developed them at once, but an emergency case prevented me. As I was scrambling in the litter of house cleaning, trying to remember where I'd put the film, Mr. Tagawa, the man who was helping us, stopped to light a cigarette.
Did you lose something, Dr. Tim?
Yeah, you wouldn't remember where you put that package of exposed X-ray film, would you?
I think I know where it is.
Good. Jill, if you'd like to take a few minutes off from your drudgery and help me in the darkroom, the job's yours.
Sure. Are we going to develop some more X-ray pictures?
If I can find them in this confounded mess.
Are these the ones you wanted?
Well, let's see, Sandy. No, this is a new package. It hasn't been opened.
I think this is perhaps what you look for, Doctor. I have, with much carelessness, put my coat on top of it when I start to work.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Tagawa. You know, most people wouldn't even know what a package of X-ray film looked like.
Before, in Japan, I have done many tasks in scientific laboratory.
Then great Scott, man. Surely you don't have to do this sort of work for a living.
Heck no, I'll bet Dr. Tim could get you a job.
I am very grateful, but I have not been well, and also I have run into much prejudice because of my unfortunate nationality.
But gee whiz, Mr. Tagawa. I thought you were an American soldier in the war.
That is quite correct, Miss Jill. I was an American intelligence officer and was captured as a prisoner by the Japanese. I served 18 months as prisoner in Japan. You will excuse, please. I have about finished cleaning wall and must buy paint to start on woodwork tomorrow. Yes?
Taking Jill with me, I waved goodbye to Mr. Tagawa and disappeared into the darkroom, not even realizing that clutched in my hand, in a thin cardboard box, was the beginning of one of the most baffling mysteries in my career as doctor and detective. About an hour later, Sandy, Jill, and I stood dumbfounded before a rack on my laboratory bench upon which were spread the developed X-ray pictures.
But there's absolutely nothing on them.
What do you suppose could have happened?
I'll be doggone. They look as if they'd been light-struck, I guess. Well, I must have been careless, or else the X-ray machine is out of order.
But it couldn't be, Dr. Tim. Don't you remember those pictures we took yesterday? After these? They were okay.
By Jove, I'd forgotten. They were. That's a mystery to me.
What'll you have to do?
Take him over, I guess. I'd better get the DA on the phone.
Boy, that sure beats everything.
By working most of the night, I managed to get the X-rays taken again, and I developed about half of them before I had to give up and go to sleep. I was awakened early the next morning by the arrival of Mr. Tagawa, who started laying out his painting equipment, and by the entrance of Sandy and Jill, ready to start the day's work. I dressed quickly and joined them.
What about the new set of pictures? Were they okay?
Well, they were, Jill. At least the ones I developed last night.
I wonder what could have happened.
Beats me, Sandy. We'll soon know about the rest. Now, where did I put
Right
those?
here, Dr. Tim.
Oh.
Shall I take them to the dark room?
No, just hang on them a minute. I think...
Light color for wood, Doctor?
Oh. Yeah, it looks okay to me.
I make darker or lighter you like.
Oh, I like that, Mr. Tagawa.
Looks swell to me.
Here, let me hold wood sample against light color. You give me a box of film a minute, yes? Very nice, I think.
He held the box against his chest and stepped back for us to see. Well, when I walked out of the darkroom a short time later, I tried to keep from swearing where the kids could hear me. The last half of those pictures were fogged again, completely ruined as if by light. As Sandy, Jill, and I sat over breakfast at the drugstore in the corner, we were a puzzled crew.
You don't suppose I could have done something wrong, do you?
No, of course not. I was working in there with you all the time, Jill.
Well, you didn't expose them to any light, and you checked the X-ray machine.
Is there anything besides light that would spoil them?
No. Well, that is nothing that could possibly be in the laboratory.
What do you mean?
Of course, film can be spoiled if it's exposed to radium, but I've never had radium or any radium product in the lab.
I don't get it. About radium, I mean.
Well, radium gives off light, Sandy, invisible light. I mean, it's invisible to us, but it's there all right. So do other atomic products, things they're making at places like Oak Ridge.
The atom bomb factory?
It's much more than that, Jill. Our atomic scientists are working for medicine, too. You know how radium is used in stopping the growth of cancer in the human body?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Well, certain other chemicals are made radioactive, too. They're used just like tracer bullets from a machine gun.
How?
Well, take iodine, for instance. There's a certain important gland in the body that's called the thyroid gland. Well, iodine taken into the body sooner or later goes to the thyroid. So doctors these days are using iodine, which has been made radioactive, to study what actually happens to it in the body, especially in the thyroid gland.
Oh, I get it. Because radium products give off that invisible light while you can take X-ray pictures of the iodine at work in the thyroid.
Exactly.
Doesn't radium kill you?
Too much does, Sandy. And too much means a piece less than the size of a grain of salt. But doctors use it for brief periods, just like X-ray, to cure people. Now, let's get back to those spoiled pictures.
Hey, you sure you haven't got some of that stuff around in the lab?
And you've forgotten about it?
Now, look, kids.
Well, it was a thought.
And it was a thought. Not that I'd had any radioactive material around, for it's the most dangerous stuff in the world when handled carelessly. But I remembered a case or two I'd read about. Not so long ago, thousands of rolls of unused film had been spoiled because the containers they came in had been made of contaminated material. That's a word scientists use to describe any substance which has been exposed to the deadly rays of atomic products. And there was the famous case years ago of the workers in a clock factory, which manufactured those clocks and watches with luminous dials that glow in the dark. Because they moistened the tiny brushes with their tongues, some of them died of radium poisoning. So it wasn't so far-fetched after all that something in that laboratory might be radioactive enough to spoil the X-ray film. Meantime, I had to take half those pictures over again. I sighed and started back to work. Mr. Tagawa had gone when we got back, as it was Saturday, and he worked only half a day. Wearily, I called my patient back and retook the pictures. And this time, they were all right, as sharp and clean and unfogged as you could ask for. Here was a mystery with a vengeance. It was Jill who made a bright suggestion as we finished.
Dr. Tim, isn't there some way you can tell if something's here that shouldn't be?
Like radium or something?
Well, yes, there is. We could use a Geiger counter.
Sure, I've read about those. They used them in the atom bomb test. They go beep, beep, beep if there's anything around that's radioactive.
What you said about the paint in the clock factory. Maybe Mr. Tagawa's paint got radioactive.
It's not likely, but...
No, that wouldn't work. Because those first films were spoiled before he even bought the paint.
Oh, gosh, why don't we get one of those Geiger counters?
Sandy, I believe you have the answer. I'll call the physics laboratory out at the university, and we'll go to work. I don't think we'll find anything, but it's worth a try. On Sunday, we spent 3 hours going over the laboratory for traces of radiation. There were none, except when I showed Sandy and Jill how the Geiger counter worked. I turned on my X-ray and pointed the machine toward it. The counter began to click away like mad.
Well, I'll be darned.
Oh, I get it. The faster the clicks, the more dangerous the radiation, huh?
Yes. But there's not a trace of anything in the whole room that could have caused those films to be exposed. Just a bad batch, I guess.
Looks that way.
Unless... Oh, but that's silly.
What's that, Jim?
Well, you said people could be radioactive, too. Wouldn't they spoil the film?
My jaw dropped open as I had a sudden thought as clear as day. Now, hold on, I told myself. Let me think. My handyman and painter had given me the box with the first spoiled films himself, after his coat had lain on them. Yes, I was right. When I took the pictures over, I'd developed half of them that night. No one but myself had touched them. But the next morning, the paint sample, Tagawa had held a strip of wood in the box that held the remainder of the film against his clothes. But the idea was fantastic. I was jolted out of my reverie by someone at the door.
I'll see who it is. Oh, Mr. Tagawa, come in.
I hope I'm not bother. I like to see if paint dry okay.
Mr. Tagawa, would you help us with an experiment?
I glad give assistance.
Sandy, will you hand me the Geiger counter? Thanks.
That is equipment I'm much familiar with.
I'm glad of that, Mr. Tagawa. Because if you do have radium poisoning, I won't have to tell you what it means.
Gosh.
You don't mean it was Mr. Tagawa?
Not Mr. Tagawa. His clothes. But if his clothes are contaminated, there's a chance that he, too, might...
I'm much afraid of that, Doctor. For a long time I not feel well. Look pale. How did you guess?
The film you held against your coat. It was spoiled.
I'm sorry, please.
Good Lord, man. You've nothing to be sorry for. I only wish that we doctors could...
I understand. No cure. Just what I work on in Japan. I see what happened to so many. It's very funny that I, too, should have...
Whiz. What is he saying?
When I prisoner, Missy Jill, I take to Hiroshima.
Hiroshima? Holy gee, when the bomb was dropped?
No, I said after. The Japanese, they know I am laboratory technician. I still a prisoner, but I work. I work with all doctors to find out what have happened, what can be done for all those people.
Naturally, you handled a lot of contaminated material.
Yes, and I think we're going to die. How you know this, Doctor?
Well, it takes months, sometimes years, for the effects to show up. But your clothes gave me the clue. You wore them at that time?
Yes, these old clothes been in my footlocker, you know. The army trunk. Since I come back from Japan, till a few days ago, I'm very sad that something so good, the little tracer bullets of you doctors, the radium for the cancer, the marvelous picture of the inside of the body, are very sad it also be so bad. I mean, the bomb.
Well, gee, it won't always be that way.
You test me now, Doctor?
Yes. Breathe out now. Silently, I held the counter so he breathed upon it. There were a few faint clicks.
Oh, Dr. Tim, can't you do something for Mr. Tagawa? Anything? Oh, it isn't fair.
No, Jill, not a thing, as yet. By the time you and Sandy are grown up, maybe. That's up to you, what you want to do with this power we own. Good or evil. Yes, you'll be the ones.
I think I'll go now, yes? This is great shock. Although I suspect before. I'll take the pink tomorrow. Many happy landings.
And so we close my casebook on the mystery of the man from Hiroshima. The last program of this first series. This is Dr. Tim, Detective, saying so long for now. The series was written and directed by Jack Weir Lewis and produced and transcribed by the Monarch Program Library, Incorporated.